Okay, so the video I'm going to do today is one that I've had a lot of people ask me to do, and I finally had the opportunity to do this little project, so I figured I'd record it. And that is how I'm going to mount a GPS to a motorcycle. And this one is a Garmin Nuvi right here. I mean, you can use any GPS for this. And I'm not going to talk so much about physically mounting it, but how to do it, the electrical work. So when you turn the bike on, it can charge and everything. So you're not charging it at home or in someone else's vehicle all the time. So what you're going to need, obviously, is your GPS and the power cord for it. And we have a outlet right here, just the same thing as like your cigarette adapter, you know, cigarette lighter in your car. We have some wiring. Color doesn't really matter. We got a crimping and cutting tool for wiring. We've got our connectors and some electrical tape. And I'm going to use a little bit of heat shrink just to do a little bit more of a professional job for a longer usage, so I don't have to worry about anything shorting out or anything or grounding. So we'll get started. Okay, so the first thing you really have to do is make sure you have a place to mount your GPS. The bike we have already has a mount. There's a lot of different things you can do. You can buy a mount. Popular companies like Ram mounts. If you've seen my videos, I actually just have it tie wrapped in like an X onto the handlebars, but every bike's a little bit different. And in this case right here, this is just going to go ahead and snap on. It should be pretty snug, so if you feel like it's a little more snug than in your car, that's fine. But first off, you got to make sure you have this on the bike so you can kind of measure things out. Okay, so what we're going to do on this bike specifically, since we have the most room to work with down here, and this application can be used for a lot more than just plugging this in. You can put power adapters and everything else in, inverters. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start running it down here. And what we want to do is we want to make sure this wire doesn't get pinched by anything moving. So we're going to go ahead and set this in right here. And we're going to take a look at the path of what's going to be able to pinch it. And we have the lower part of the front seat's going to come down here. The back seat's going to rest here since it's a split seat bike. So what I'm going to want to do is I personally want to run all this wiring just completely out of the way. And, you know, sometimes you might even need a fish tape. Or, you know, most of the time, though, you can actually just do this on your own. It's certainly not a difficult task. And you just have to try and pick the best route. And this is the way I've done it on my bike, and the bike I'm doing here is going to be very similar. And sometimes you just have to try and fish for the wire. Like I said, it's difficult, but you know, choose the path that this wire is going to go in wisely. And you're going to have some areas where it's going to be hard to actually pull the wire through. There we go. As you can see, this is all out of the way, and one of the easiest things to do is just run it along your frame here. And usually you're not going to have any issues if you can pull it tight. And if you come up into this area, it just depends how much extra room you have on the wire. You might want to wrap it around a little bit. And as you can see here, I actually have plenty of room. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of tie this off to the fork a little bit. And as you can see, this is the fully extended position. And the wire is it's not tight, but it's not drooping on anything. And if I turn it the other way, it still has enough room. And if you look onto the back of your Garmin or whatever GPS you have, go ahead and plug it in. And just make sure that the wire is not too tight or too loose. And that part is done. So the next thing you have to do is, once you have your GPS power cord running, you have to have power to the plug-in for it. So what you're going to do is the two best places for me personally to mount it is, first of all, the ground of the battery. And the second thing is we're going to set this up so you don't have to go in here and unplug this, take the seat off, or worry about draining your battery. We're going to operate it off your key. So when the bike's on, the GPS is on. Turn the key off, the GPS will go off. And as you can see, there's a little thing here that'll tell you, a little sticker inside your fuse box. It says what all these fuses go to. And if you look inside here, and you may not be able to see it because of the camera, there's blue 15 amp fuse, which all bikes are different, so don't take my word for this exactly, but on this bike, this blue 15 amp is powered, it says head, so it's going to go to the headlight. So what we'll do is we'll crimp the wire into here, have a grounding source, so when the key's on, GPS is on, key off, GPS is off. Okay, now, as you noticed earlier, we had a box of these connections, and one of the things I forgot to mention was I'm actually not going to be using the heat shrink because these have little plastic terminals on the end here, these connections, so they're going to be isolated, so it's not going to arc off or ground or anything like that. So we don't need this unless you just have the bare metal type. So one of the first things we did was we measured out the size of the wire that we're going to need, and this is, you know, leave yourself a few extra inches just so you have room to kind of move the wire around, you're not stressing it, breaking it, hurting connections. What we did was we're going to use the crimp tool now, and the nice thing about these ones, they have an area to cut and to crimp. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to size up your wiring, and everyone's going to be using a little bit of a different wire. And we're just going to go ahead and cut off just enough for a good connection. Actually, that's not going to be enough, actually. There we go. You just want to have a healthy amount of wire sticking out here. And what we're going to do for this video is, since this is a green and brown wire, and traditionally a grounding wire is black, I'm going to use the green and brown as the ground and green as the positive. So what we're going to do is we'll just take our first one. As you can see, this terminal kind of has been spaded out more. What I did was I fit it onto the screw with the negative terminal of the battery. You'll see this later. And we just pushed it in to kind of spade it out and make sure it fit correctly. Now what you want to do is just go ahead and put your wire in. And you want to make sure, you might have a little extra wire sticking out here. That's a good thing. And you want to make sure on the back end, when it goes into the sleeve here, that it doesn't have any wire exposed. And all you're going to have to do is take the crimping tool. I know it's a little hard to see, I apologize. And you can see these things are actually color coded, which is beautiful. And you want to make sure you have this all centered up nicely in the right area. Crimp it down. And I missed the jacket actually here. And it's a little tough here, I'm sorry, it's taking a while doing this on camera, so it's a little harder for me to do. And as you can see, the jacket is holding it properly. It's a little bit of extra wiring sticking out. That's good for the connection, and this is a healthy connection right here. So go ahead and keep your colors the same. We'll use the red for the positive, blue for the negative, and do this to the other end, which is going to end up going into this. Okay, so now that you have your wiring made up, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to take this one connection here. Like we said, blue is going to be the ground, red is the positive, so the grounding is the outside of this. So go ahead and slip this connection in, like so. Should be going pretty tight, and the positive right here. And one of the things I like to just personally do is just to keep anything from interfering with these connections. This is why I include the electrical tape and the things I think you should have. I tape off this entire thing. It makes it a lot easier. It makes it so also when you're going down the road, it doesn't create any road noise or anything. So what I like to do is I just start right here by wrapping up your positive terminal. And you can just kind of push this tape in. And this doesn't have to be anything like an expert job as far as the taping. Just kind of go crazy with it if you want. But like I said, it helps prevent rattling and a lot of extra noise too when you're not using it, or even when it's in use. So as you can see, I didn't perfectly cover it, but the big thing I was going after is making sure these weren't going to be able to arc off on anything in any way. Now that you have this part done, you're going to go ahead and put it back here, and we're going to run the wiring in the same fashion, but remember, we don't have to go as far here, which is nice. So, if you can get, I'll make sure there's nothing in your way here, obviously, because it's going to make the job a lot harder for you. There's one wire, and our second wire. And this is exactly where we want them at. And as you can see, here's the plug for your Garmin. We'll go ahead and slide that together, and as you can see, this kind of fits in here really comfortably. So like I said, you're going to sit, every bike's going to be different, so you just want to situate this in a comfortable position. Then next, I'm going to show you where we're going to connect this to the ground and put this into the fuse box. Okay, so the first terminal we're going to land right here is going to be on the negative end of the battery. There's a couple ways, if you're not very if you're not really aware of how electronics work in that, and you're not sure which is going to be the positive and the negative, usually your dead giveaway is going to be this red cap. Also, your battery should be labeled. This one you can't see it. It might be underneath this type of heat insulation. Sometimes it's on the side. So just make sure you're on the right connections first of all. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a screwdriver. And you don't have to completely take this off if you're using this type of spaded connection. Now, if it's the one that has the holes through it and it's got a complete circle, you're going to have to. But for this one, we don't. And I like that. It's just easier for me when I'm changing out batteries or anything. It's just less maintenance in the future. So just make sure you have a nice tight connection on there. Obviously this isn't going anywhere. The wiring is nice and tight. And this is going really quick because it's easy. Now the next thing we have to, like we said earlier, we're going to go after this 15 amp fuse in the back, the blue one. And these are really hard to pull out, so you're probably going to need a pair of needle nose pliers. Some people can grab them. I personally can't. And what you're going to do is, if you have to, you can tear these wires apart. And this, you can use two separate wires for this completely as well. This is a little tricky, and I know some people think this is odd, but you'll go ahead and, I'm in an odd position, so I know it's probably hard for you to see. You're just going to try and put the wire in on the area where the fuse prongs go into the box. And you have to press it in kind of tight. And as you can see, this one is in. And you know, you might have a little bit of difficulty closing the fuse box. And that's okay. But as you can see, the wiring is in here. And sometimes, you know, this is a good idea to go ahead and tie wrap this up if you want, just keep things clean. Now what we're going to do is on this specific bike, if you turn the key on, the headlight doesn't come on. So you're actually have to put the bike in the run position. So we'll go ahead and turn the key on. Fuel injection obviously activates. And actually this one did come in. So there must be a relay somewhere else. And as you can see, the Garmin is going to go ahead and power up, loading maps and everything. And we'll give it a second to start up, and then we'll show you what happens when you turn the key off. So if your screen doesn't come up like this, you might have to put the bike into the run position. Don't jump the gun on thinking you did something necessarily wrong. But since this one did come on, just with the key being on, we're going to go ahead and turn it in the off position. As you can see, the screen dims, and it'll say external power loss, and we'll just show you for another demonstration. If you turn it back on, it kicks back on. If you're done with this, you might just want to tie wrap some wires up here just to keep them from dangling depending on your bike. Make sure everything underneath here is a nice clean installation. Nothing's going to get pinched or damaged. Go ahead and put your seat back on and enjoy your